Okay, it's 12 o'clock. We're so excited you're here. Welcome to the Region 3 Directors Meeting. Just some housekeeping things. Down below here is where you're gonna be able to mute yourself, which I put everybody on mute right now. So if you have a question, you can put it in the comment box. There are, the child care consultants are in there, and they'll be directing questions after each speaker speaks. There's also a stop video if you need to stop your video and still listen in. So just remain muted so all the information can be given out. So all of us from Region 3 would like to welcome you to this event today. Here's all the people that are on the call with us. Next, it is my honor to introduce you to Heidi from Healthy Child Care Iowa. She will be our speaker today. Welcome, Heidi.
Hi, sorry, just needed to grab something with my headphones. Can you guys hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Okay. I want to thank you for allowing me to be on today. This is a great opportunity to be able to share some information with you. So, are you going to forward the slides for me then?
Yes, I'll do that.
Okay,
so
good, great. Thanks, Shirley.
Thank you so much for
doing this. A little bit about myself.
Yeah.
Thank you. A little bit about myself. So I'm the coordinator for Healthy Child Care Iowa. I work with all the child care nurse consultants across the state. I was a local nurse consultant for 10 years in the Clinton and Jackson County area, so on the other side of the state, and over on the east side of the state. So have been working in the Healthy Child Care Iowa child care nurse consultant arena for the last 14 years. And just really appreciate, I guess, first of all, I'd like to just say all of the work that you're doing to keep childcare functioning in the state of Iowa during COVID-19, because this has been very challenging, I know, for so many individuals and programs, and really just trying to use the best practices that we have and the information we have, which changes sometimes daily. But it is, I really appreciate that, all that you're doing, because I know that the amount of work to kind of keep things going can be overwhelming at times. So if we can go ahead and switch to the next slide. So I'm going to just do kind of an overview of some information. So, you know, COVID-19, in terms of just kind of the general, I know you all know kind of what COVID-19 is, so I'm not going to really talk about that, but just wanted to share with you, you know, COVID-19 information is really, it's a process and it's changing as we find out more information. So, you know, initially, you know, when the outbreak first occurred, there was some initial guidance that had come out from the CDC, and that has been really an ever-changing situation, because as more information is garnered from the cases we've had nationwide and worldwide, more information from childcare from the CDC has really been able to make some more definite guidance documents. I think the challenge that we run into sometimes, and I know Iowa Department of Public Health, you know, we really are working very hard to make sure that the information is, you know, the most current information is sent out, but that requires us to have some flexibility and some change, which is not always easy to, you know, and I mean, I'll just give an example. The Centers for Disease Control had said that initially child care providers, that it wasn't appropriate for childcare to have children wearing masks in the childcare setting. And pretty much just sent out information on a Friday, and by Sunday night, the CDC had changed that guidance and had put different guidance up. So my goal always every Monday morning is to make sure that I have the most up-to-date information, so I can provide that guidance to Department of Human Services, to our partners, and to our child care nurse consultants, so they can share that with you. So it's always challenging sometimes when things are changing that often to stay up to date. So I really just encourage you to do the best you can and to reach out to those partners, reach out to CCR&R, reach out to your child care nurse consultant for additional information, because what you might have printed off 2 weeks ago maybe has changed. So just wanted to kind of give that as a general overview. The other thing I wanted to just talk about a little bit regarding the COVID information is, as I said, it's ever changing. You can go ahead to the next slide. It's ever changing. However, you know, consistently the same guidance has come out with, oh, sorry, you can go back one, sorry. Consistently, the information has come out that COVID-19 symptoms are, sorry, you can, Shirley, I think we've jumped ahead a few, I'm sorry. There, perfect, you can stay there. I was looking to see if there was a number on there, and there isn't. So, so anyway, our overview information has pretty much stayed the same in terms of, we want to make sure that people are not in care if they're ill. I mean, that's really an overarching theme that I would like to kind of leave with you today. Because if you have a child or a staff coming into your care and they have any kind of illness symptoms, it really puts a situation in place that could become problematic with, you know, if the testing is done or not done, or if a child has a symptom that is maybe not directly what we would consider COVID related. So we're usually looking for fever and cough and shortness of breath. Those were always kind of our key symptoms. But we have found across the state that we have had a lot of unsymptomatic individuals, both adults and children, where they have not had the typical symptoms, or have been diagnosed with something other. Say, you know, a child had a respiratory illness and they said, well, it's not COVID because it's not, they didn't test, but they didn't feel it was COVID. And so they diagnosed with maybe bronchitis, or even influenza, or upper respiratory infection. Or I just recently heard of, I was reading some information on the CDC website, and it was related to a child who, you know, presented with some, what we call kind of that rhinitis and upper respiratory type infection and ear infection, and they were not thinking COVID. But when they tested, the child also had COVID-19. So they call that co-infection. And so that's something that I think is just new information that we're learning more about, that you know, we really want to make sure that we're looking at all individuals coming into care being monitored, for one thing, you know, for infection, but asking those specific questions, because we do not want people coming into the building that are ill, no matter what, because it just puts everybody at risk. So that's just a little bit of overview that I wanted to share with you. We do have some reopening guidance that's available on the on our website, and I'm going to just talk a little bit about what's there, and then at the end I'll show you some information on our website so you can kind of find where that's at. But just recently, with some of the reopening guidance that Iowa Department of Public Health has come out with, and has shared that now on their website, there are some general information for reopening guidance, and then we have some more specific reopening kind of a decision tool that can be used, that's also on the website now, that the CDC has posted, to really help those programs that maybe have been closed and now they're considering reopening. You know, in our state, most of our programs, a lot of our programs have stayed open, but we do know that there has been some short-term closures or temporary closures in childcare. So really looking at those guidance documents that are available now on the website, and making sure that you have your systems in place. So the things that I would really encourage you to look at is the Department of Human Services has some basic child care guidance related to child care programs operating in the state. And there are some requirements to be open. and the Department of Human Services lays those out, monitoring, limiting contact into the coming of families and outside vendors coming into the facility, the requirement for those health checks, some disinfecting and cleaning requirements. So those things on the DHS website are really important for all programs to be following, because that is regulatory. And then we also want you to be looking at the guidance document that the CDC has on their website regarding to programs that remain open, because that really goes through some of the how do I accomplish these things when I'm open or reopening. So there are some just some general guidance for reopening for all businesses to follow, and then more specific for childcare. And those are really good tools. The next thing I just want to talk about a little bit is, so the two questions I keep getting questions about are opening and reopening, and what do we do when there's a concern about a potential exposure. And we do have a guidance document that Iowa Department of Public Health has developed, and that is on our Healthy Childcare Iowa website. And that is called Child Care Centers and Homes Health and Safety Concerns. And that really talks about what do we do when there is a potential or a confirmed positive staff or child. And that really talks about some short-term closure. So that's a question we get commonly is if a child has tested positive or a staff has tested positive, what do we need to do? And so the first thing is just to refer to that guidance document. But it's really important that you reach out to your local nurse consultant, and then you do need to talk with your local public health department. And the reason I say that is because it's really not, every situation is so unique. I wish I could just say, oh, you got a positive case, this is what you need to do. But the reality is a lot of times it has to do with when was the staff person working, what room were they working in, how many children were exposed, how many days has it been, was the person symptomatic? So all of these types of questions, and it's really so unique that's why I think it's really best to be reaching out to your local nurse consultant and your local public health department. The local nurse consultant can kind of walk you through some of the scenario, and then they're going to encourage you to work with local public health if you're determining that you need to do a short-term closure because of the potential exposure. So those two, and to be honest with you, in some areas of the state, our local CCNC is also our local public health. So they kind of wear two hats in there. So it might be the same person you're talking to. In other areas, the local nurse consultant would direct you to the local public health department that you would call or contact if you weren't sure of who that was. You can go to the next slide. So I had mentioned this with the Centers for Disease Control as the guidance for childcare programs that remain open. And this is where we'll take the DHS information that says that there is a requirement for temperature monitoring and health checks at the door or before entrance into the facility. And then the CDC really goes through, what does that look like? And this is a challenge because the guidance document that is available from the Centers for Disease Control is very specific about either having the temperatures monitored at home by the parent and they report that to you. And in our state, that is really not an option right now because DHS has come out that they would like that monitoring done, before they are admitted into the facility. So that's a little challenging because that's not an option. So then we have two other options that the CDC guidance has. And one of those options is to try to limit the amount of exposure that the person who's doing the monitoring would have to the child before they were entering or the staff entering in. And for baseline, if it's possible to have a barrier type method is the best. So if you have the option in terms of your facility, and all of our facilities are very unique in terms of their layout, but if you have an option that you can have some kind of barrier where there's either a screen, either a glass, sliding type screen, or if there's a plastic type screen. And I know a lot of businesses have been putting those into use, and that's the same recommendations we have for childcare, is that if you can do some kind of blocking, that's the best practice. Okay, and if you're using a no-touch thermometer to do that temperature monitoring, that is the best practice. That is challenging, and I will say that each facility really has to look at what is our environment and how can we make this work, and what is our layout. Is it a possibility that you're monitoring temperatures before they're even coming up to your building? Now that it's nicer outside, we can maybe think about that, some outside screening, where before that wasn't really an option. We were needing them to come probably right up to the door. So I would recommend that you reach out to your child care nurse consultant to specifically walk through with them, how does this work for our facility? And then trying to put those best practice into place. For sure, anyone who's doing monitoring of temperatures, they need to be wearing gloves, and they should be wearing a cloth face covering. Okay, so that is a basic. Now, as face shields become more available, that might also be an option to have that as an extra layer of protection. We kind of talk about that with protective layer, that layer of protection. So that guidance document really kind of helps walk through some of that. Now, I will tell you that part of that guidance document talks about gowning, gloving, using PPE that would be more like the N95 mask and surgical mask. And that is just, at this time, that is not an option for our childcare programs to have that level. Now that's changing. So every day it's getting better where we can find those supplies. But N95 masks are really being reserved for the healthcare provider that is more in is screening an ill child. That's why we want to just really make sure that parents understand, don't even come into care, don't even come to our facility if your child is ill. They really need to be doing, in my opinion, that pre-screening at home to double check that their child is healthy to be able to attend care, and not even putting the staff into that situation of risk where a child would be coming into care and would be having a temperature taken, and then their temperature is positive of 100.4 or higher. So that's a little bit about health checks, but that guidance document is very helpful for kind of walking through that. And then I was talking to a nurse consultant the other day, and was just saying, really, that facility. So I think you helping with that facility to be able to know, what will work for them would be great. I want to share a little bit more about cloth face coverings. So cloth face coverings, that is a challenge for programs to implement that. And we know we can't social distance in childcare. 6 feet, it doesn't work. That can be a great guidance, and that's what is on the guidance document from the CDC and Iowa Department of Public Health. But I will tell you that is not realistic in childcare, and so we know that. And so the cloth face coverings, I would say if you're thinking about starting that in your child care center, if you haven't already done that, I can see for staff that would be appropriate. For children, it's very challenging to have cloth face masks, and it really depends on the age of the child. Now, if they're under the age of 2, they cannot use face coverings. But even if they're over age 2, if they're younger age group, trying to a 3-year-old to encourage them not to touch their face and touch the cloth face covering throughout the day is very challenging. What are you going to do when it's time for nap? They can't wear face coverings while napping because it's not safe. We can't have them have cloth face coverings on when they're eating. So if they've been wearing them all day and then they're taking them off to eat, and they're sitting next to their friend, another child near them, that really has defeated kind of the purpose of having the face cloth covering on, because we would want to have them wearing those to protect others. So it's just, it's a challenge. The cloth face coverings is a challenge for children. I would say for staff, not as challenging. Some things to consider about cloth face coverings would be, who's going to provide them? Do you have access to get them? Do you have a community organization that could sew them for you so that you have several on site? Who's going to wash them? You know, do you have facilities to be able to clean them? I would say that they would be, best practice would be that they would stay at the facility and be washed in the washing machine there. But those are all those things that you would need to figure out how that's going to work for your facility. When children are eating, napping, drinking water, what are they going to do with that cloth face covering? Are they going to take that off and put that in their cubby? What happens if it gets soiled or wet? They're going to need to take that off. And then we also want to just think about, what about a child or a staff person who has any kind of respiratory challenges, maybe with an asthma or something, where they're already having maybe some respiratory challenges just from chronic condition, and then having them wear a cloth face mask could really be problematic for that child. So we don't want that to happen. So that's why I'm saying, if you're considering that, there is some guidance on cloth face covering, but I would say start with the staff and see how that goes, and then really determine the age of the children that you're caring for. And we talked a little bit about PPE already, so I think we've covered that pretty well. Really, when we talk about personal protective equipment, we're talking about gloves, masks, and shields, you know, face shields if you can get them. I think gowns are more challenging, but you can always, you know, wear an extra, a layer with an extra shirt over, you know, a button type shirt, so you can have some protection there. Cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting. There's some really great guidance from the Centers for Disease Control on cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting. We have this question come up about sanitizing, and you know, we really want to focus on the cleaning and disinfecting for most of the things that are being used by the children. However, if it is a mouth toy, or if it's your dishes and utensils, they need to be sanitized, and you would be following the food service requirement for the sanitizing part. And then with mouth toys, if they can be run through the dishwasher, that's great. That's probably the best. If not, you can do the bleach water soak to do that sanitation on the mouth toys. So there's some guidance in there from the CDC on that, so you can look at that. And then the other thing to consider is isolation for a child who becomes ill at care. Definitely, I would say that's where you want to make sure that you have in place, how are we going to isolate a child who becomes ill? So they're fine in the morning, they come in, they have a temperature monitoring, you know, they've been doing well, and as the day progresses, or when they wake up from nap, now they're not feeling well and they're warm to the touch. You know, there's a fever possibly, or maybe just some other symptoms. We want to make sure that that child is isolated in an area. I mean, the staff needs to be there monitoring the child, but there needs to be a place for isolating that child till the family can pick that child up. If you have cloth face coverings, to have the child put on a face covering while they're waiting for their parent to arrive. And then that the family that is aware they need to come immediately to pick up the child, because you don't want to be isolating that child for a long period of time. Best is to get that child moved out of the class, out of the facility. And then that guidance document, guidance for child care programs that remain open from CDC, has some specific things to do in terms of what do you do after the child has left the building, and then that cleaning and disinfecting. So that has some really great information on there. Next slide. So I was asked to just share a little bit about this severe illness with children, and it's called multi-system inflammatory syndrome in children, MISC. and it's associated with COVID-19. There's some, it's kind of an unknown situation that is just being studied right now. We just had a health alert go out from the CDC about this syndrome, and then we also had IDPH included in their proclamation or in code requiring hospitals to report this symptom, these symptoms if this syndrome is occurring. So I do know yesterday there was an announcement from Governor Reynolds that there were 2 cases of children that were being currently monitoring in our state that have the multi-system inflammatory syndrome. And what this is it's a very rare situation, and it's really a multi-system inflammation of the heart, the vessels. There's some other clinical things that can be occurring with other disease process kind of going on in the child's environment or the child's system. So it's really looking like it's more in children and not adults. They are, like I said, requesting that healthcare providers, that's required now, that they, if they see those symptoms, they need to report that. You can go to the next slide, Shirley. And in terms of, what a child care provider would see, it's probably not something you would see at care. It's really associated with a very high fever, and it's usually they have current system of COVID, and then they're also been hospitalized, and then they start having this other syndrome occurring. It can happen latent though, so I just want you to be aware that at this time there's really not additional information, but for sure to be excluding children that have a fever, and it's, like I said, a high fever is what they're seeing in this syndrome. You want to make sure that no one enters the child care facility if they currently have any symptoms of COVID, and if they've been around anyone in the last 14 days with a positive COVID or with symptoms of COVID. And then really the CDC, we didn't need to continue to follow the CDC recommendations of if there's actually an exposure, there's and the child or staff lives with someone who's had an exposure, that they have an exposure through someone in their household, then they need to be quarantined for 14 days. And then there's also guidance if a child has been either or staff diagnosed with COVID-19 or tested positive, or maybe hasn't been tested, but they feel that it is COVID and they're not going to have testing. There is specific guidance about that, and that is where the child and the staff needs to be out of care for the period of time of 72 hours post without fever, so fever-free, 72 hours, and they cannot have taken any medication to lower that fever. They also, so this is an and, they have to be free of any symptoms, and it needs to be 10 days since they first started showing symptoms. So a lot of times that's going to be 14 days, but it may be a little shorter depending on when their symptoms started. So I've had this question come up, well, they were diagnosed with something else. Do we still need to have them out for that full 10 days for, after they have those symptoms and be fever free? And what the CDC is saying is, yes, we need to follow that guidance no matter what the diagnosis is, because we are seeing so much co-infection with COVID that we really want to err on the side of caution, because if we have that child come back or that staff come back too soon into care, that's going to really jeopardize the whole program potentially, and could lead to a short-term or long-term, even 14-day closure of that child care program. And we don't want that. So, so I know that question has come up, so I just wanted to reiterate that. So if you want to go to the next page, and I'm wondering if would it be okay if I shared my screen? I was going to actually pull this up on the website, but maybe actually I did a screenshot. So just so I'll do this just to have show this slide. You can go to our Healthy Childcare Iowa website, and if you go to the printed products page, so you can kind of see that I have on the one kind of what that screenshot looks like under that tab. And we have a COVID section under our printed products section. And that's just, we kind of put it there because then at least it's all in the same area for programs trying to find information. And I just updated this on Friday since we have the new reopening guidance. So there's a section that's all for reopening, and I have a screenshot of that. So that's where you can get the links to the things that I was talking about with programs reopening. There's some specific guidance around cleaning and disinfecting from the CDC, and then that IDPH reopening guidance. So that's in one area. And then below that is the health and safety concerns when there's been a potential exposure. And that section has guidance documents related to what do you do for that short-term closure, working with public health, of course, some CDC information about cleaning after there's been somebody in your facility that's been sick. So that's some specific guidance. And then some additional guidance the Test Iowa site link is on there. So if you have a program staff member that wants to fill out that form for potential testing, the Test Iowa link is on there. So just wanted to put everything in there in that section under the COVID-19 resource section on the printed products page. Then we also have the links to DHS, to CCR&R, because they both have also some additional great information, and then the general information for Iowa Department of Public Health. So I don't know if there's maybe any other questions for me. I tried to cover anything that I got ahead of time, but I don't know, Shirley, if there's anything in the chat box or anything else that you have questions on.
If anybody has any questions, could you put them in the chat box, please? You can also unmute yourself and ask a question too, if you'd like.
I'm just testing my audio. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Oh, good. Okay. I'm in a classroom and it's given me difficulty. That's why you see the board. Thank you for doing this. This really helps. This is Iowa.
Great.
We just reopened Monday.
So how has it gone so far? Your day two?
Actually, the preparation took the longest. Actually, we have laminated sheets that has the health questions. Of course, I ask them, but when they're waiting in the line, the 6 feet to 10 feet, we have them 6 feet. We have them read that so they're aware. We also made an agreement that they're going to sign on Friday. We have packets that go home on Friday of everything. We do it every year, summer, but we added a agreement to just let them know these are the requirements that we are having all parents do. And it's generalized, but it's basically that they will take the commitment to keeping the child home when these things are going on. And they understand that we are on the pursuit of the highest measure possible to keep any diseases out right now. Like you said, it is the aspect of, even if they're diagnosed with something else, it's that chance, and it's a rare chance, but it could happen. So we're taking the very high road on that. It went very, very well. There was I want to, if anybody is closed and going to be reopening, I would like to let you know there is a lot of emotions with the staff there. I have a highly professional staff here, and they've been in the field anywhere from 20 years to 8 years. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of emotions. And I had emotions. I'm going to be honest. I have anybody that's on this that knows me, I'm a highly emotional person anyway. But I could not sleep the night before. I just don't want anything to happen under my watch. And so it puts pressure on the caregiver to know that we've done everything we can do. And if it happens, then it is a chance that happened. But we're taking all the protocols to make sure that we have the peace of mind so we can walk away with it with confidence.
Thank you, Jane. Megan?
Yeah, that's great. I just wanted to share, you know, I think, you know, having that kind of that system in place, and then, you know, there is a lot of fear, and I understand that, you know, because of the uncertainty, and that's part of the challenge. But I think, you know, putting those procedures in place, and then also, you know, really, I know that parents need to get back to work, or asked to be, you know, getting back to work, but they really need to have a backup plan for if their child is ill, or if something happens and you need to do a short-term closure of your facility, because that having that additional kind of that safety net for that family is so critical also, because we do know that, you know, at any given time, a staff or child could potentially be diagnosed with COVID or start having symptoms. And then that is going to change maybe what you're doing with your facility, whether it's a full facility short-term closure or even a long-term. And so we have to be realistic and be honest with people, and then really have that planning. So I appreciate all the planning that you did prior, and those emotions. Yes, it's you know, we're in uncertain times, and that's always challenging. But I commend you. Thank you for reopening. I think that's great, because that we do know that children are the safe. I mean, they're in the safest place when they're in childcare. You know, we know that as a state. So
Absolutely.
We have a couple of questions in the chat,
Yeah.
Shirley.
Okay, go ahead.
The first one says, oh no, where to go? Would you recommend limiting toys in rooms such as infants and toddlers with so much mouth-to-mouth transmission going on?
I know that the CDC had some guidance around, you know, is it possible that you kind of have, you know, especially with those mouth toys, that you kind of have a group of toys that are just related to that one child that's doing that mouthing, if you can kind of separate the toys. And you can always rotate them after they've been, you know, cleaned and sanitized, you know, or run through the dishwasher, and then maybe rotate it to the next day, but at least to kind of try to limit some of that. Limiting toys is best, because just to try to keep up on the clean and disinfecting part of it. And CDC does have that in their information. But we also know too, you know, we don't, you know, children need to have toys to be able to play with. We can't just have everything barren. So we have to have that, find that happy medium with how much can, you know, I'd say definitely removing those toys that can't be cleaned and disinfected. And then I know a lot of programs I have been working with have told me, you know, they just have a protocol where they are just running things through the dishwasher, and they took out all the toys that really just could not go through the dishwasher, and then they're just using their dishwasher to make sure that they're getting those all done. So those are a couple suggestions. Definitely having kind of that yuck bucket, so that you can, you know, as a child mouths on something, you can move that to the yuck bucket, and then clean those at the end of the day. So those are just a few suggestions. It's a challenge.
Thank you. The next question says, what are the guidelines now for how many children can be gathered in the same space? Right now we are doing 10 people total, including staff, but I thought I heard it might increase to a limit of 15. And there's a few other questions that follow that say, I heard the groups of 10 might be changing as well. Is that accurate? Is groups of 10 what we have to follow as of now? Things like that.
Okay, so groups of 10 is a recommendation by Department of Human Services. If you go to their guidance document on the DHS website, there's the you must, and that goes through a series. But prior to that, it talks about group size, and it says, you know, if feasible, encouraging, trying to do that. And the CDC is also doing the same thing with the group size. So best if you can do smaller groups. Best if you can keep the same staff with the same children, so that if something does happen, You know, if there is that you might just be having a quarantine of that room rather than the whole center. So those are some of those best practice guidance that could be changing. I know, you know, that's really going to be kind of as things change across the state with governor proclamations and some things reopening, we will see some of that group size change too. We'll anticipate that. But as it stands right now, on the DHS website, it says best practice would be group size of 10, which would be, you know, the staff and children total in that classroom.
Alrighty, the next question is, when a childcare is going to reopen, how often should they be cleaning playground equipment between groups of children? Also with that, indoor playground and that doesn't have very good ventilation. If cleaning, do you think they should add a fan to circulate air in that area and remove prior to children returning to the area? I'm not certain what they have been doing previously.
Yeah, I do know that the CDC has definitely encouraged increased ventilation. So if that's an area that can't be ventilated well, that might be an area you don't utilize. But that's been very clear about the importance of ventilation. In terms of cleaning and disinfecting playground equipment, in the CDC guidance document specifically for childcare for cleaning and disinfecting, it does state on there that that the disinfecting and cleaning of the playground equipment for outdoor use is that it's for the high touch areas and it's not the whole playground equipment, because for one thing, it's the needs we've had lately in terms of just finding disinfecting and cleaning products to utilize those in a full outdoor spray down is not the best use of the disinfectant. But definitely they talk about the high touch areas. So, you know, the railings, the swings on the ropes on the swings, the areas that can be cleaned and disinfected, and that could be done between groups before the next group goes out to play. So, you know, if you have a large climbing structure, definitely those areas where the kids are touching. And so that's going to be like your handrails and maybe the edges of the slides, you know, some of that kind of area.
Awesome. All right. Lisa Wilcox says, if a child comes in coughing and the parent claims it's allergies, what do? We know kids have allergies. How are we supposed to know when to exclude?
Yeah, that's a challenge, but coughing is a symptom of COVID. So we need to follow that. And I will just say that children that have, you know, if they have a lot of allergies, they have asthma, they are a high risk group and really are not, best practice would be for them to not even be in group care at this time. Now, I know that might not be realistic, but that would follow the CDC guidance on, you know, that really for those high risk individuals, that group care might not be the place for them at this time. And they need to be in a smaller setting. So that could be a challenge for that parent, but coughing is a symptom of COVID and should not be in care.
I think that's all the questions that we have in the chat box.
Yeah, I just saw a little note pop up about the doctor giving a note to return. Yeah, that's a challenge. We need to have good communication. We want to have good communication with our healthcare providers. However, just because if a child returns with a note and says that they can return to care, we still need to follow the guidance document that children who are ill should not be in care, and if they have any symptoms. So we've actually had a couple situations in the state where children have been in care because there was a doctor's clearance note, but they actually should not have been in care at the time. And so we don't want that to be a common thread across the state. So we will need to stick to our policies, and that will be problematic, I know, for families. But that's where I just say having that plan in place of what the family is going to do if their child cannot attend care, because we know children get ill. I mean, they have illnesses. It's common. But right now, we just can't have them in the group care setting, even with mild illness, because of the risk for COVID. So I hope that was helpful. Any last questions for me?
Heidi, did you, this is Julie, despite what my screen says, I'm not Crystal Drake, so
Oh, okay.
that's a little confusing probably for people. Did you watch the governor's press conference today?
I did not. I was on a phone call. So did something change today?
Well, Director Garcia from DHS was on there, and she kind of alluded that there would be some additional guidelines coming out this week. I don't know if anyone, for childcare, obviously, I don't know if anyone else saw the press conference. So just kind of be aware that there may be something coming out later this week. So
yeah, I've actually been anticipating too. The DHS has been reaching out for some specific guidance in a couple of areas. So I do anticipate that. It seems like it seems like every Friday I'm putting something out, but at least that's been the pattern the last few weeks. But
and they're good about getting.
We'll just wait. We'll just wait to hear. Yeah. I know that they did ask for some information from me, some specific things that they were looking at in terms of group care. So I did provide that to them, so I know that they're working on some additional guidance. So.
Right. So yes, I do think there's something.
Yes.
Hi, this is Deb Martins, and we've just heard from Mickey Robinson that there will be more guidance this week.
Okay,
so
great.
To confirm exactly what you're saying. So she's telling CCR&R to stay tuned.
Okay, great. Thanks for the update.
Are there any other questions?
Again, I just want to say thank you for having me be part of this today, and I hope I answered at least the questions that you initially had thought of. But if you have an additional question that comes up, please reach out. You can reach out to your local nurse consultant. You can reach out to me. We're both available for questions and concerns. And like I said, the reason I think that reaching out to your local nurse consultant, especially with some of those, how do we put this into place? This is what we need to do, but how do we actually make it work at our facility? The local nurse consultant, they know your facility, so it's really helpful for them to be able to say, okay, this I could see working. This maybe won't work for your facility because of your layout. So having some of those. They've been in your facility and can be really helpful. So thanks for pulling that map up. Yep, there's our nurse consultant list. And if you have any questions, like I said, feel free to call me. And thank you, Shirley, for sending me the PowerPoint ahead of time so I could add my slides. Oh, I think you're muted, Shirley. But bye-bye.
Thank you, Heidi. This was very informative.
Thanks so much. Have a good day.
Thank you. I did bring up a map of all the CCNCs in our area. If each one of you want to just say hello real quick.
Hi, I'm Wendy.
Hi, I'm Steve.
Hi, I'm Julie.
Hi, I'm Tanya.
I'm Cassie. I'm the one in training.
Hi, I'm Lisa. I'm not on video though.
Hi, I'm Becky.
Hi, I'm Bobby.
I'm Julia.
I'm Abby.
Okay, thank you, each one of you, for saying hello.
Thank you.
Shirley, I have a question that was texted in for Heidi.
Oh, okay. I think Heidi might have left.
Oh, did she leave?
Yes.
It's okay. I'll email her.
Okay, we can get it to her later.
Okay.
Here are some supplies that we have available. I just want you to know that this slideshow will go out later to you. And we're also recording this right now. So this all will go back out to you later. We just wanted you to have all that information. So here are some things that CCR&R has that we're able to get to you. If you contact your consultants, they have access to this stuff. Now I'm gonna send it over to Kathy. And if you guys have any questions for Kathy or Nate. you can either put them into the chat box and Lauren will help you read those off, or you can unmute yourself and talk to.
Hi, everybody. Okay.
Can you introduce yourselves too when you talk?
Shirley, could you put that list up again?
Is it one early?
Yeah, that's the one. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, Kathy.
Well, hi.
From Iowa Western.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. So you opened Monday?
I'm going to attempt to get in front of the camera, and I think you guys, I could wave to you if I stand in front of the bulletin board. I'm in a classroom. July is when you come to renew us. And I was just wondering, and I'm sure a lot of people probably have the same question, if they're coming up to a renewal, what are we going to do with those things like the fire marshal? Most of the stuff can be done, but you know, we're limiting people coming into the building. So we're just not, well, we're not limiting, we're not letting other than staff and children. So how do we handle the renewal aspect? Is it going to be the same time frame?
Well, if you're open, we'll try to make a visit. Some places are not going to be open, so we'll just push back their date or wait till they open.
Okay.
From what I understand, we will just put the fire marshal inspection on hold for us, and I would proceed with my evaluation. So from what I was told, I think it's just up to the fire marshal in your area if they'll come out or not. So I don't know. I don't know who's coming out and who isn't, how they're doing that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So you said you opened Monday?
Yes, we just opened Monday.
Okay.
And everything's going well, very well. There hasn't been any glitches. We've set up systems, little extra systems as far as toy sanitations. We got 2 clothing baskets outside of the classroom, and when it is necessary, take those out. The first day, it was stressful for the staff because they were trying to take everything out, you know, as soon as they touched it. But I said when they're done with it, you know, like, because it's just, we minimized the amount of rattles, touching, you know, things like that in the baby room.
Right.
So it's just conceivable to get these things sanitized and back into the room.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But that, and then we're sanitizing the playground. I'm trying to think of anything that we stepped up from where we were anyway. You know, like we have that system that once a week, each center is totally sanitized from top to bottom. That we already are doing that. But now we're doing all the, you know, like at the end, there's 2 staff in the room at the end of the day, and one will sanitize and the other one will go to a reading area. So we're able to get that done by the end of the closing. We're short hours too, I'd like to mention. We had to open short hours.
How did parents handle that when you shortened hours?
You know, we didn't have, everybody understood. We've communicated a lot of, we had Zoom meetings with each of our teams, I mean, not teams, I'm sorry, classrooms, to keep them very much connected to all the caregivers. And then I sent out weekly, and at first I was sending them out 3 times a week, just kind of letting them know what we were working toward. Now our mandate is toward, I don't make the final decision, I can guide it. You know, like I can let them know how we're feeling. And why we opened now was we're the only ones on campus. So they want to get us settled, us in a routine, make sure there wasn't any glitches on the outside drop off and all that. And then I can't state, but June 1st, the campus will start start reopening. I don't know how that looks.
What are your hours?
8 to 4:30, and why I did that, I was able to have, because I didn't know how sticky the drop off and the pickups were gonna be. Being 8 to 4:30, that way there's 2 people in the room with 10 kids that they're able to, we're lucky, our setup is lucky. We set up outside doors. There's 5 classrooms. We had to makeshift a classroom out of a college classroom. That's the only one that doesn't have an outdoor door. You know, like they're all getting dropped. Basically, I do the temperature, and then they walk to each individual door, outdoor side doors, and the teacher meets them there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you do have a different, unique setup.
Yes, so we really are not crossing over children at all.
So as time goes on, will you see and then extend your hours? Is that?
Oh, yes, that's our goal. The next move is the 8 to 5. The next move after that is 7:30 to 5. And then the final is 7 to 5:30, which is our original operation hours. And the reason why we had to do this is that we employ students here, and they're all gone. So I didn't have those that were already trained, and so we had to do this to do it for our professional staff that are full-time here.
Okay, that sounds good.
There was a question that came up in the question box or the chat box, and this one looks like it's maybe just out to anybody, any directors to see how they're doing it, but how are you cleaning books?
By what we have looked at in CDC and all the other references, they are, I can't remember where, I'm sorry, I cannot state where the resource came from, so I apologize for that. But hey, they are saying books are okay. Of course, when you get down to the infants, it's different. You know, so you might want to use the waxy books and the plastic books that can be wiped off daily. But they're saying that it doesn't retain on cardboard as much as they thought. Now, you know, everything is changing every day with those information of how COVID is spread. So that's, I wish I could state the reference from the resource but it is okay for the books.
I also saw that reference as well.
What's that?
I also saw that reference as well that you're talking about.
Now, Kathy, I'm going to reference that question to you. Is that something, is that okay for the book?
I don't know that answer.
Okay, all right.
About books. We should have
try to
asked,
find the reference.
maybe we could send that to Heidi. I don't know.
Okay.
I have a list of things we're going to ask Heidi, so I'll put that on the list. Lauren, is there any other questions?
Hey, this is Lisa from Learning Journey. Hey, I was gonna let you guys know when we first closed, we actually didn't know how to communicate with all the parents. And one thing that we did is we signed up on Seesaw app. I don't know if you've tried that. It's free, and it has been the best, easiest form of communication I've ever had with my parents. It's a lot easier. It took us one day to set them all up, and now they can message me and I can message them, and I can also send out group messages to get all the information out, because emailing is terrible. So that's a thought for you guys if you don't have a way to communicate.
Hey, Lisa, this is Greg with Kids and Company. We also use Remind as a text message system, and that's free. So we have a software program that we use for emails, but I agree, email is kind of antiquated. So we use remind.com or .org, and it's a free service, so we can send out a mass text to all our schools or individual school. We can do a mass text, and that's pretty nice. So.
Are there any other questions for Kathy? Thank you so much, Kathy.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, everybody. And I know you guys are all doing great. And it is a lot, like Jean said, to reopen or just to stay open with staff and concerns and people having different issues that they're worried about. I appreciate all you guys and all your hard work.
I have one question, and Kathy, I don't know if you're the right person to ask. Is it 10 children and then adults, or is it 10 total people in a classroom?
Well, what the governor's, it's a strong recommendation. It's 10 people per room.
Okay.
We're saying it's a strong recommendation. It's not a mandate.
Okay.
Kathy, I also do have a question too. The class that you were supposed to do in Council Bluffs, I believe back in March for the handbook, I guess the book that you need whenever you come to visit, is there going to be like a reschedule for like even on online to do?
Heidi Brown is the consultant that was going to do that training, I believe on 4/29. And we don't know when it will be rescheduled, and she doesn't have it set up for an online course at this time.
Okay.
So I'll visit with her again and see if she's thinking about setting up a class she could do online. I don't know, because I have boxes of stuff here that were supposed to be handed out then. So I don't know how we would do that.
Okay.
Sorry
Thank
about
you.
that.
Oh, no, you're fine. That's good.
Yeah, Kathy, this is Deb. Just for an update on that, we did purchase Zoom, so we do have that capability to deliver training online. But yeah, we are discussing that very issue. How do you share materials? You know, we might have some conversation with Dawn Powers on how to get that done. But
Okay.
we're open to redoing that class because I think it was full. So,
I know it. There was a lot of people
yeah,
signed up. I know.
That's the
I
way.
know.
Unfortunate, because I do believe it'd be great to have that. So I don't know. I didn't know if Heidi was even interested in doing that online, and if she was, you know, maybe we could do it during the daytime like this, so that the directors have access during the day. So
okay, I'll talk to her about that.
Yeah, let's keep that conversation going with Dawn Powers, because you know I know she's been under a great learning curve in the last couple of weeks, as we all have been, on how to conduct a virtual meeting or training or a virtual visit. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much, Kathy.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Okay, what other questions do you have? One of the things that I want to say too is make sure that you're checking your funding opportunities all the time. And your consultant has information on that stuff, so make sure you're connecting with them also. And do you have any other questions for us at all? Again, you can put it in the comment box or you can unmute yourself and talk. All right, the next slide says, what is something that you would like to share with your peers? So if anybody is willing to share anything that they've learned through this whole thing, or just some ideas that you have or anything like that.
I think everyone can see the chat box, but there were some good suggestions in the chat box that were made earlier. There was one comment that was made, a center was struggling to find large gloves. A suggestion was made to rotate books to help with the cleaning or the question about cleaning. Someone said they found gloves on Amazon and Discount School Supply. Another one that came in was I just took books off the shelves and instituted a daily reading time. That way staff is only handling the books and they go into a bin that just sits for a couple of weeks to make sure no virus remains. And then
there was a question in there that said, we have a waiver for physicals until the end of May. Do you think they will be extending that? I think that's a Kathy question.
Kathy, are you still on?
Yes. So yeah, we have eased up on the physicals. So those, yes, can be delayed right now. And I haven't heard anything different as to what date that's extended till.
Awesome. Somebody also said, I was glad to hear the governor's message about the need for childcare and how appreciative she was of the centers. I think we were all very glad to hear that.
Yeah, we were.
Very good message.
Yeah.
Another side note too, the Iowa Women's Foundation is doing a promotion right now where you guys can order like signs that talk about childcare being essential or little window clings. And there was a constant contact sent out the other day where you can click on that. It's also on our website that you can click on it and they'll send you those for free. So that's just a little thing that the Iowa Women's Foundation is doing.
Has anyone found any face shields that would work good for those that are taking the temps before kids enter the buildings?
Lisa, you can email me or text me after this is over and we can problem solve that and find some.
Hi, can you hear me? This is Liz.
Yes.
I will say I was at Sam's the other day, and when you do your online ordering, there's a desk you go to specifically to pick up stuff. And I don't know if this is on purpose or what, but they had just the basic class, masks that you can buy. I think they were $24 for 50. So it makes about 50 cents a piece. And I don't know if they even have them on their shelves, but I asked, I said, are those for sale? And she said, sure, do you want one? And I got one. So I don't know if they have them there for businesses on purpose, just to let anyone know that wants those.
That's awesome.
Thank you all for coming today. If there's no other questions or anything that you'd like to share, you're free to go. Thank you so much for joining us, and we plan on doing another one of these soon. So thank you again for coming. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
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 Thank you, guys.